Good morning. Okay. Hi. I'm Paul Langston Daly. I'm the Minister for Social Action here at First Parish in Concord, and we welcome you all this morning on this glorious Labor Day weekend. If you're online, please feel free to participate fully in the chat, and if you're here in person, questions about accessibility or for the building or any questions, please see our ushers, or you can speak to our worship leaders, potentially after the service. Masks are optional throughout the building, including in this space. We continue to use enhanced ventilation, and we do encourage people to wear masks, especially as we're seeing the COVID numbers go back up again. So please take care of yourselves and each other. I invite you all here, those present, to turn around and give a wave to the folks online. However you're joining us this morning, we're grateful that you're here and we thank you for coming. I'd like to welcome our special guest this morning, the Reverend Danielle DeBona. Danielle has served Unitarian Universalism for over 30 years and is the 2018 recipient for the Award for Distinguished Service in the cause of Unitarian Universalism and the 2004 recipient of the Mel Hoover Beloved Community Award for outstanding service to communities of color in Unitarian Universalism. In her retirement, she serves as the Palliative Care Chapel at South Shore Hospital in Weymouth, Mass. And when not serving UU, churches or the community, Danielle describes herself as retired. In her retirement, not only does she work at the hospice center, but she also trains and shows her dogs and had the honor of showing Rozzy, Grand Champion Blue Ridge Vista Sendies, and Aldous, Blue Ridge Vista Aldous, at the Thanksgiving National Dog Show in Philadelphia and Westminster and Manhattan. So we welcome Danielle, and unfortunately she didn't bring her dogs today, but that's okay. So a couple of quick announcements following the service. As usual, we have our worship sharing circle, a small conversation about the service theme in the Brooks Room, which is both in person and online. Coffee hour is outside on the patio. We hope you'll join us for that. For Zoom, if you stay after the service in person, we can get you into some small groups. Welcome to this service. We are pleased that you are here this morning and grateful for all of you.
Let us worship together. Come into this place, this special sanctuary, for all who enter here seeking peace and encouragement. Come into this place made holy by your presence in it, made holy by your longing for a sanctuary, made holy by your joy, made holy by your desire for community. Come into this holy space. Come, let us worship together.
We light our chalice this morning, as we do every week, as congregations all over this country and all around the world do the same. It is a symbol of our faith and our spirit. I invite you to join me in our chalice lighting, unison chalice lighting found in the order of service. O flame of our faith, open our hearts, fill us with the souls of persistence, enliven our spirits, and engage us deeply into this life of ours, this sacred, essential moment now. I invite you now to join in singing our first hymn, number 355, We Lift Our Hearts in Thanks.
These are the words of the Reverend Dr. Paul G. Hull. Oops, there we go. These are the words of the Reverend Dr. Paul G. Hull from the Evangelical Unitarian Universalists. One of the greatest services that you could do for someone is to invite them into this community of caring and hope, of acceptance and love, of seeking and compassion. People are waiting to hear our Unitarian Universalist message of a faith grounded in a belief that the final authority in religious matters rests in each person's engagement with life, and that engagement moves your soul to rejoice. People are waiting to hear of a faith that affirms in each person's core, everyone holds a love divine that will not let you go. This is the good news, the spirit of a free faith that we are all called to shout about. Reverend Dr. Paul G. Hull. Good morning, friends. Well, before I came here to preach with you today and to meet you and spend time with you, I checked out your website. Now, that's something I do a lot. I check out UU church websites because I don't serve in churches. I've always been a chaplain, so I'm always, flitting here and there to worship. And I only worship at churches that have halfway decent websites. Y'all have a great website. Yeah? So I have a few things to say about you folks based on what I saw on the website. You were gathered, well, this congregation gathered in 1636. 1636, that's a really long time ago. Your records include 300 years, maybe 300 plus years of history. You actually have historical records going back 300 years. I tried to imagine what it was like based on the history of Unitarianism, especially in Boston, where it was a very elite group of people who went to Unitarian churches. They were the shakers and the movers and the leaders and the professors, and the women wore nice hats. I actually read that in one of the histories. The women wore beautiful hats. Apparently, if you did not have a beautiful hat, it was clearly not the place for you. So I've wondered, and maybe afterwards you can tell me if you know any of this, but guessing that your congregation was basically in the sticks 300 years ago, if it was as highfalutin as those folks in Boston. The reason I ask is because so many of our churches have a very narrow view of who can be, who is Unitarian Universalist, and a narrow view of what their houses of worship are to be used for the doors to be open to the community. So I went a little deeper into your website to look at what you are doing in the community, to learn that you have probably, for people here and outside, I don't know this, but you have support groups. You have a cancer support group, caretakers, parents. You have pastoral care lay ministers. You're in the process of a Jubilee 3 anti-racism preparation. Now, I was the anti-racism program coordinator at the Unitarian Universalist Association around 2000 when we put out the Jubilee 1 and Jubilee 2 workshops, and I probably should have known this, but I didn't even know there was a Jubilee 3, so congratulations. You voted to put up a Black Lives Matter banner. I have known churches that have tried to do that and were unable because the gathered community would not vote for it. That is a bigger step than you may believe it is. That says a lot about what this congregation is about and who you are as Unitarian Universalist members and friends of this congregation. Share the plate. Again, not many of our congregations share the plate. And not many of our congregations that do share the plate have as open a process as you folks do, inviting anyone who is a member in good standing to offer a suggestion for Share the Plate. It's not a decision made by a small group of people or by the leaders. It's a decision that you can participate in. So, you're community-oriented, you're compassionate, you're forward-thinking, you're open to ideas new and not so new, but nonetheless you're open to ideas that can be discussed and can be determined by you, the people in the congregation. You live your faith, and you are committed to this church based on just the little bit that I learned from your website. There was a lot more, I just didn't have time to read it all. What I think I learned from this small investigation is that you are brave people. You are willing to take risks. You honor and respect your history, clearly. But I don't think you're stuck in it like some of our UU churches. I once preached in Maryville, Ohio, where after I preached, many years ago, after I preached, a woman came up to me and said, "We used to be a better congregation, but we haven't been able to get together since that happened." And I said, "Oh dear, what happened?" And she said, "You know, the merger." I said, "It's 2000. The merger happened in 1961. And then in the most unpastoral way that I could be, I said, "Get over it." So you're not stuck in something that happened sometime in the past, whether it be the merger or some other thing within your own congregation. It feels like you're not stuck in any one of those things that can get you in the mud and hold you back. So, here's the other side of the story. Why do we Unitarian Universalists hold all this awesomeness inside of our doors? Most UU churches do this. Most of them do. Not all are as awesome as you are, as you just heard. But almost all hold the secrets of Unitarian Universalism tight to your chests like poker players with a really good hand. When I was 30 years old, which literally was in the previous century, a very long time ago, let me just say that. When I was 30 years old, the love of my life, who was also 30, died of leukemia. It was, in retrospect, the worst thing that happened to me. I was desperate for something that would provide comfort, community, awe, spirit, prayer. I was raised a Catholic and knew I could not find that there. But I didn't have anything. I had nothing at all. I was devastated, and it took me a long time to be well and healthy and healed. Now move forward a long time after that, and I found Unitarian Universalism by going on a first date with a man who took me to church. Okay. Being a former Catholic, that was really surprising to me. Nonetheless, I found Unitarian Universalism, and I began to attend UU churches, became a member in Brewster, Massachusetts. Now, having found this faith of my life, you would think that I would have been just delighted. If you will pardon the language, I was royally pissed off. Why, I hear you cry? Because I live on the South Shore of Massachusetts, where there is a Unitarian Universalist church practically on every corner. There are over 40 UU congregations in Massachusetts and over 50 in Massachusetts and Rhode Island alone. And I grew up there, and I had no idea. How many people do you think are out there in our communities who are in desperate need of you and don't know where to go? Our history and our heritage tells us that we are special, that we are the saved people, if you will allow me to use a Christian word. I prefer saying that we are the frozen people. But again, that's not always true, so I'm not being fair. But this is our heritage, that we stay contained, that we know each other. Fantastic, I love that. But that we keep our light under the basket. We need to break free of that. We hold on to what's good, our good history and the good people upon whose shoulders we rest. And then we share that good news. We share the messages of love, hope, salvation, whatever that means for Unitarian Universalists. And if I ask you to describe salvation, each one of you will probably give me a different answer. That's fine, share it anyway. We do not dare to keep our holy faith, our saving faith, to ourselves. We are 21st century people. We are not 19th century Boston snobs. As Unitarian Universalists, it is our duty, our responsibility, our calling, if you wish, to throw open our doors to those who are desperate for our message of love, hope, and inclusion. We especially are proud of our openness to people who have been rejected or who have been rejected by our neighboring faiths. And yet, where are those people? Where are the people who have questions about what God is, what the holy is, where their place is in the big picture? I meet those people every day in their beds in South Shore Hospital who are struggling to find their worth, to find their meaning at the end of their lives. I can't proselytize, but I want to tell them that there is good news out there that would help them, that would save them, and that would give them peace and joy. Some of us have been blessed to have found this place of welcome. We encourage spiritual growth and learning. We stress that faith development, understanding what is true for you in your spiritual life, is something to celebrate and work on throughout our lives. And yet, where are those people who are yearning for that permission to grow their spiritual souls? We are proud that we welcome all who come through our doors, and yet, look around. We pretty much look all alike. Where are those who wish for a more liberal faith tradition than that in which they were raised? Where are our companions of different ethnicities, races, education levels, class? I have preached in many Unitarian Universalist churches all over the country. And one of the most mind-blowing things that I have noticed over and over again is that although many of these congregations sit in town, often at the top of a hill, just like this on Main Street, and all have beautiful front doors leading into their sanctuary. And the next sentence does not apply to you. Always, always, these doors are closed. In all the churches that I have preached in, without question, except for yours. You make it possible for our neighbors to see and hear our good news. You throw open your doors to the glory of your neighborhoods and the people who live in them. But usually, for Unitarian Universalist churches, these doors are closed, closing us into a cocoon of safety and self-congratulations that we are on the inside, that we are the chosen people. We got the memo and evolved into good, rational, thoughtful UUs. Well, my friends, it is time for those congregations who do not do this to throw open their doors. They must become ready to literally throw open the doors at the front or back of the sanctuary and let our Unitarian Universalist message of love, compassion, and acceptance, and to let in the fresh air and sunlight of possibility, new ideas, new hope, and new life. Now, at this point in this sermon, I step away from the pulpit, march to the back of the church, and throw open the doors. Guess I won't be doing that this morning, now will I? Things I've heard when I've preached in those door-closed sanctuaries. It's hard to hear. It's too cold. It's too hot. I've heard all of this before. And I encourage that those who need to leave their comfort zone for just a short time for the good of the souls and lives of our neighbors, I invite those folks, if they can't hear and they don't need one of the wonderful hearing devices that you and many of our churches have, to move up. If you're cold, move up. If they're hot, move up. This is not Symphony Hall. The seats in the front are no more expensive than the seats in the back. Or the seats in the back, you get it. It's not expensive to sit up the front. Now, your doors are thrown open. Let's think about that metaphorically. What would it take to throw open the doors of our hearts and minds and souls? What would it feel like to take a step into the unknown without a preconceived idea of what that would be? What would it feel like to hear and see the new, the different, with, instead of a normal reaction of dis-ease, with a deep breath and a willingness to be open to the possible? Throwing open the doors of our hearts, minds, and souls is the first step to inviting those that are not here today into this beautiful space. This, my friends, is spiritual work. It is soul work, the kind of work that shapes us into the people we dream about being. This, my friends, is work of trust and of faith. Faith that throwing open the doors to our hearts, our souls, and our sanctuary will bless us in ways that we cannot possibly imagine. Faith and trust that our openness of heart and soul and sanctuary will not diminish who we are as Unitarian Universalists in a liberal faith community, but bring us closer to our siblings of faith who do not even know that they are ours. And so in this beautiful community of Concord, Massachusetts, there are so many things that are happening in your community, so many events, so many social, political opportunities. I invite you to go into this community, go into your community, and invite someone to church. It doesn't hurt. And I'm sure we have all heard no in our lifetime. What's the worst that can happen? Someone will say, no, thank you. Then your job is to ask somebody else, but that's for another day. What is it like in the community surrounding your community? How many of you spend time in the city of Boston, regular time, where you know people and can invite them to church. Now, if they say it's too far, Concord is in the way, way far away, for city folk it might be, show them your phone where there are other UU churches near them. Become evangelists. Become evangelists. I have been a UU evangelist since the day I found Unitarian Universalism and was so angry. These are our siblings of faith. These are people who need us, and guess what? We need them. Our faith is precious. This Unitarian Universalist faith of liberty and freedom is a saving faith. A saving faith. We cannot keep it to ourselves. Not now, not ever. We must plan for the 7 generations ahead of us. We must remember those holy people upon whose shoulders we rest, Dana Greeley being one of them, right? We must enter into the holy space of heaven on earth, our faith, and heal those who struggle. Some of us right here in this sanctuary who struggle with the terrors of the 21st century. May you be good shepherds of Unitarian Universalism. May you step out of this place and begin your service to your faith. And may you change the world. Amen.
And now we come to the time in our service where we share with this congregation community those sorrows that may be weighing heavily upon our hearts, the challenges we face each and all. This congregation is a community. It is a place where we honor these challenges and the joys in our lives, that our burdens may be lightened and our joys may be amplified. Today, I have one sorrow to lift, or one care to lift for you all, and that is that Bill Fry has successful surgery on Thursday at UMass Medical for a compression fracture. He'll enter rehab for several weeks for a good recovery. So we invite you to please continue sending Bill your healing wishes and prayers. And for those of you carrying a burden or celebration, a joy for yourself or others, I invite you to speak these names aloud and to type them in the chat, to create a place of witness, a space of acknowledgement, a moment of awareness for our shared humanity and our mutual needs. I invite you to call out those names now. And I offer a final prayer to all those seeking but who have not yet found a community in which to share their joys and sorrows, their hopes and dreams. May they find peace. May they find love. And I invite you now to pray with me. A prayer of risk by Tamara Labak. She writes, Holy One who has given us the breath of life, today we remember to breathe deeply, to rest, to take in, to pause before we act, and then to take in another deep breath poised on the edge, and risk jumping in, risk taking action, risk speaking up, risk using the gifts that we have been given so that at the end of our life, we can say with absolute clarity that no part of our existence was wasted in fear of failure or fear of success. Hold us. Prepare us the way to begin to offer the gift of our awakened presence, full of love and light today. These are the prayers of our hearts we lift up now in the silence. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Oh, in the wind, rise in the sea. This month, we begin our Share the Plate program, which we run for the 10 months that we are gathered in spirit with one another, September through June. This month, a group of our members are headed off to visit our partner church in Transylvania, Hungary, and we share our plate with Gonvilises. I don't speak Hungarian, so if I get that wrong, I deeply apologize. They are a Unitarian organization in Transylvania whose name loosely translates as caring about problems. It is connected to our partner congregation, and we are grateful for the support and the work that we do here inside these walls and beyond these walls. We thank you for your generous gifts this morning that will be shared 50-50 with the Gonzalez group and with our congregation. Thank you for your generous gifts this morning. I invite you now to rise in body and spirit and join in our final hymn, number 298, Wake Now My Senses, verses 1 through 3.
seated. Our closing words come from the hymn that you just sang, written by my beloved friend, Thomas Mickelson. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry, the voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving that their hardship to end. Become warriors for your faith, become risk takers, and give your life the shape of justice as you welcome both neighbor and stranger, as you welcome those who suffer, those who cry, those who need a place to rest their soul.
I invite you to join me in our benediction found on your order of service. Some of you may know it by heart. I don't know it by heart yet. Go into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all